This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And hey, going to Walt Disney World is not easy. I mean, you got to plan a lot of stuff, but one thing you can do to take it out of your hands, let someone else do, is figuring out what's the best deal for you. There's lots of packages out there, pin codes, annual pass rates, special codes, free dining, whatever it may be. The good travel agents at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel can help you figure out which plan is the best one for you and let you know what your options are. And the best part about it, it's all free to you. That's right. You're paying the same price as if you just booked it on your own, but you've got friends out there that are going to help you make those tough decisions and let you know what that best decision is. So check them out online at www.mousefantravel.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Wednesday, October 6th, 2010, and this is episode 782 of WDW Today. I am Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Miss Jobson, no one in Africa calls them Thompson's gazelles. They are Tommies.
Tommies.
Simba 1.
Who says that?
Come in, Simba 1.
Warden
Lightfoot.
No. I want to say Windu, but that's like Mace Windu from Star Wars, and that's not correct.
Warden Wilson Matua.
I knew there was a W in there.
Son.
Yeah, very good. And that's Kilimanjaro Safaris.
That's correct.
Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hiya, buddy.
What episode number are we up to?
782.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Seems like only 6 years ago that you started this thing.
It seems like 26 years ago we started this thing.
Also joining us on today's show is Fred Hazelton, Master Statistician for TouringPlans.com and the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome back to the show, Fred.
Oh, I was glad to join you fine folks.
Wow, where's their fine folks here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Damn, that's Beta
Wrong
Mouse.
show.
My
Wrong
mistake.
show.
My mistake.
Oh,
Wrong show.
Ouch.
Love you, Henry.
Well, on today's show, we're going to be answering your listener questions, and let's start out with some emails. You guys remember we were talking about what happened to those in the Penny Arcade in the Magic Kingdom. Some of our listeners helped us out with that. Jeff from Arlington, Virginia, wrote into us that just listen to the September 22nd, 2010 show with a question about where the Penny Arcade machines are now. You can find some of them in the Main Street Railroad Station.
Oh.
Didn't know that. And also, speaking of that, Haley from Riverside, Connecticut writes, in episode 776, Brett from New Hampshire sent an email asking about the Penny Arcade. You guys claim to see some of the old machines in the expanded Emporium and at the Boardwalk Resort. Last August, I know I saw 4 or 5 of the machines in the Main Street train station. Some mutoscopes, kinetoscopes, Nickelodeons, and the Calliope. You put a coin in it and it plays some loud music by itself, a Tron. Also, you talked about Lucky the Dinosaur. After appearing as part of the Happy Celebration on Earth in Animal Kingdom, Lucky spent some time on Hong Kong Disneyland. Supposedly, guests in Hong Kong only care about the number of attractions, so they'd see Hong Kong Disneyland as a better park if they had more attractions. Disney was bringing over all those little attractions to Hong Kong Disneyland, like Muppets Mobile Lab. Since then, he hasn't appeared much. However, I did see him at the World Science Festival 2008. It took place at NYU during the last weekend of May 2008. I was there with my dad, and we went to see the Science of Disney Imagineering presentation. He discussed a lot of science in the Disney parks. Part of the show was a demonstration of an elephant tracking device, and a family walked with the device from the auditorium outside of the park where Lucky was entertaining crowds.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. Thank you, Haley.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next email, and it is from Kathy Adams from Connecticut. Hi, Kathy. Who writes, counting down the days to my first Mouse Fan reunion. I'm totally psyched to have gotten tickets to the meet and greet lunch at Epcot. I look forward to meeting all of you in person and thanking you for countless hours of entertainment, laughs, and yes, some screaming, no, you've got it wrong at my iPod and attracting curious looks from coworkers. Just kidding. Anyway, here's the question. I'm planning on going to the studios on the Saturday of reunion to partake in the Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster meets, among others. However, I was thinking of heading over to the Magic Kingdom for the evening. I've heard that they are taping the Christmas Day Parade that day. How will this affect crowds, and will they be clear by late afternoon?
It will affect crowds in the Main Street area. Mm-hmm. And people will be directed to go through I think they want they want the guests to go through the stores. Sometimes those tapings will take until 4:30 in the afternoon to go through. They're looking for good weather, so they try to do that, and they usually piece it together. So when we watch it on television, we're watching bits and pieces from tapings that occur all weekend.
Right. Yeah, it can go all day, all weekend, depending on the weather, like you said, Mike.
Yeah.
The interesting thing from our perspective is that we can see historically that it doesn't affect wait times. That it makes Main Street jam-packed at some parts of the day. But if you can get yourself through it, the rides actually aren't too bad.
It probably helps them, Fred, because you're tying up large portions of people for a long period of time. So maybe it helps the wait times.
It could, actually. Yeah, we get that question a lot. People saying, that people are telling them to avoid the Magic Kingdom like crazy. And yet we say, well, yes, the crowds are busy on Main Street, but in fact, the wait times of the attractions aren't too bad.
Next email's from Elaine from Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Hola.
Writes.
Right.
It's not hola. It's Portuguese over there.
Oh.
Olay.
That's English.
I don't know if you guys get listeners from countries other than Canada, Australia, and the UK, but I'm from Brazil and I love the show. Listen to it all the time. Keep up the good work. Also, please stop being such big wussies. Dinosaur and Mission Space are in my top 5 Disney World rides. Seriously, man up, especially you, Matt. Jeez.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah.
Calling out Matt.
That's right.
Newell?
Yeah.
Newell, band, please.
No. We love Brazil.
I love it.
Elaine writes though. So here's my question: do you guys have a list or know where to find one of all the characters around the resort for meeting, hugs, and stuff? There's one in particular I've never seen who also happens to be one of my favorites, Lumiere the Candlestick. I've seen him in one of those afternoon parades in the Kingdom, but that was it. Is he around? And if so, where? Lumiere is in Beauty and the Beast in the show, but I don't think he's available for meet and greet.
No, I've never seen that. No.
No.
So she's asking at the resorts?
Or anywhere in parks, doesn't really.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't think that costume is good for walking, so I don't think it's...
That's probably what
I
it
can't
is.
really ever remember even seeing him. It's not like something I've seen once or seen a picture somewhere. I just have never seen Lumiere as a meet and greet character. Yeah, obviously, you can see him in the show, the Beauty and the Beast show in Hollywood Studios on Sunset Boulevard, but that's really it.
In terms of the other characters, I mean, the only way to do it is to ask when you get to the park to go to guest services, or I think actually any cast member can access some system, right, that tells them where characters are.
Yeah, you can actually. It's a good point. You can actually just ask a cast member. Usually, guest relations is the best place to start, but they can usually look it up and figure out the best place for you to go check them out.
Because it's difficult to plan in advance because they'll always tell you that the characters are subject to change, so you kind of have to go the day of.
Exactly. Elaine writes, also, I don't quite remember where I saw exactly, but there's this picture of Launchpad and a Quack on the internet. Now, I'm not a big fan of DuckTales series, but I thought that was pretty cool. What other unusual characters are there, or were there at some point? There's been a lot. I mean, Darkwing Duck, I should say, is still around like occasionally, like really rare events where they need a special character. I've seen Launchpad still around, actually. I usually see him in Animal Kingdom when you're walking into the park, like before you actually get into the park. He's out there, kind of in the, whatever you want to call it, the courtyard or area. So those two are definitely weird ones that you don't get to see quite a bit. I know there's some fans out there, Max Goof. That's Goofy's son. You see occasionally. Not really anymore. Can you guys think of any that you've seen? Some weird ones over the years?
I'm a fan of Brer Fox, and he's usually around Frontierland or up and down that stretch, sometimes by Country Bear Jamboree. And I mean, it's such an old film. Most people don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But like many of the villains, if you hang out with them and get your kids to line up, they can do some pretty goofy things. I know we had a few laughs interacting with him one time.
You see, excuse me, Scrooge McDuck sometimes. He's kind of a rare character, and again from DuckTales.
Sometimes they'll have, anytime they have a new movie coming out, they'll promote it by having characters from the new movie, and sometimes those characters won't last past kind of the length of the time that the movie's at the box office.
Absolutely. Let's go to an email from Howie from St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. My family and I are going for our 4th annual trip to Walt Disney World in 2010. We've stayed at Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter and love both, and once off resort, won't do that again. This year, we're staying at the Wilderness Lodge for 7 nights. After discovering your wonderful podcast, I've heard that Wilderness Lodge is described as a deluxe moderate or words to that effect. I'm aware that the room sizes are smaller than the other deluxe resorts, but larger than the moderate rooms. I was wondering if there's any other hotels in which the Wilderness Lodge is deficient compared to the other deluxe resorts. Love the show, and I will eventually listen to all the podcasts.
No, to me, it's just the size of the room. I think the detailing is great. I think the decor is great. It's just that I think we kind of call it a moderate deluxe because of the size of the room. That's the only reason I can think of. I think it's a great hotel otherwise.
Yeah, great dining options. You got a couple different restaurants over there.
Well, the only other area is that all the other deluxe hotels are closer to a theme park like Epcot or Magic Kingdom. But other than that,
yeah, it's so close to the Magic Kingdom. It's just you have to rely on boat, which is not as reliable as monorail or walking. Right.
That's a good point.
Next email is from Ryan Verrier of Appleton, Wisconsin. Every year when we go down to Walt Disney World with my son Bryce, who's 4, we cannot get enough of Test Track. I'm not sure if it's because of the high speeds, cool breeze, or his quivering knees. Nonetheless, after going on it many times, I've noticed a couple of things. First, what's the deal with it breaking down all the time? It seems like every trip we take there's at least once a day in which it's broken there. I've also noticed the high-speed turns no longer really increase in speeds. I think I remember the days when the turns actually did pick up speed, and you did feel the increase in lateral forces, just for Scopa. Did they stop increasing the speeds in this section because it was giving the ride problems? Or is the giant bump at the end of the high-speed turn section giving the ride the problems? Either way, what's up with Test Track always being broken? Keep up the awesome work.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts to that attraction, and one of the things they have to keep in mind all the time is safety. For a long time, they couldn't figure out what kind of tires to put on the cars. So that was an issue. I think there's just so many moving parts, and it's such a technically challenged attraction that they have to be very, very careful. And when you have an attraction that does what that attraction does, you're bound to need a lot of safety checks. You're bound to have more frequently scheduled preventative maintenance checks. So I think that's why. And I think that it's for guest safety as well as, the efficiency of the ride. So I think that's why we see that attraction go through so many frequent checks like that.
I don't
have any data to back this up. This is just kind of my observations. But it seems like in the recent couple of years, it hasn't broken down nearly as much as it used to, maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
It still breaks down.
Yeah, I don't know about 5 or 10 years ago, but our lines data tells us that it breaks down twice as often as any other ride.
Well, she'll see what I know.
And
but we can't. We don't have historical data on that. I mean, like you say, we kind of have just from observing.
Yeah, anecdotal.
But anecdotal, yeah. But it definitely breaks down more than any other ride at Walt Disney World. We know that for sure.
I will say though about the increasing speed, Freddie, you and I rode. What was it? Earlier this year, we rode Test Track
in June. Yeah.
Yeah, and it did seem like though the increasing speed, it definitely increased speed all the way when you go through the loop and all the way right after the loop. Then they hit the brakes and you decrease quite quickly. But I've thought that they really they hit the top speed when you go through the speed check over there, whatever that is, whatever you want to call it,
the radar thing. Yeah,
exactly. And you go through the loop and then you decrease speed rapidly. But I don't know.
It seems to depend. I don't know. I mean, there's enough variation in how fast you go that I think you could ride it at different times, and maybe just like wind or weather or anything might be affecting it. I don't know.
Next email is from Jeff Carr, who writes, I was listening to another podcast, Short 2, with the trivia book, Need I Say More? And Michael Eisner was brought up. I'd like to hear the panel discuss the pros and cons of Michael Eisner's leadership when he was CEO of Disney. I've only heard strong opinions, mostly negative, but don't really know, quote, the facts. Can you please enlighten me or your audience?
Wow, there's a whole show.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a much bigger fan of Michael Eisner now than I was before because I've seen what happens when you take people who don't have the passion that Michael Eisner had and put them in charge of the company. Because Michael Eisner was in charge of the company for most of my lifetime, so I didn't really know anyone. I wasn't there. I didn't live through the lean years of the early '80s and late '70s there, where Disney was almost ripe for a takeover by other companies. And I will just say that I would. If I could bring Michael Eisner, he had to go because Disney could not let Pixar go, and he was the problem. And I recognize that 100%, and they had to get rid of him or do something about that. I really wish he was back, though, because his passion for the theme parks is what made the theme park so great from when he got in through the end of his tenure. And now we're having people who are in charge who have no passion for the theme parks, in my opinion. And we're getting more and more just let's rest on our laurels more and more and not try to push the envelope like they used to do, in the late 80s and early 90s. I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts on Eisner?
Well, I think Michael Eisner he introduced to us what he called the Disney decade. And in that decade, there were a lot of things going on. Like you said, Matt, a lot of concentration on the theme parks. I think that one of the things that we'll never find out is just how better Michael Eisner's reign would have been had Frank Wells not died in that plane crash. I think there was a lot of creativity there. I think they really worked off one another. So I always have that in the back of my head. I think that when Frank Wells died, I think part of Michael Eisner died too. But I think that I want to join you in that I really think Michael Eisner had a lot to do with the Disney culture, the Disney theme park popularity just exploding over the last 15 years. I think that he also put himself out there. And he was on television and stuff, and you don't see that with Iger. You don't see that. So I think that's a big difference. But I really think that that he did a lot. That Disney decade was a lot. There was a lot of things that happened during his reign, and a lot of positive things. And I think more positive than not so positive. So yeah.
Yeah, I think he wasn't perfect by any means, but I think the theme parks had no better friend than Michael Eisner since Walt Disney. I really believe that. And Iger, I really believe, sees the theme parks as just a revenue stream, no different than like DVD rentals. And Iger is great for Disney, the film company, Disney, that side of the business. ABC, great. He does a great job with that, I think. But he's not he just sees the theme parks as another dollar to make. And he put Tom Staggs in charge of the parks, and this man, this is a real problem for me because Tom Staggs was Disney's chief financial officer, so he's a bank guy, he's a money guy, and they put him in charge of the parks. And he had never been to Walt Disney World. Okay, he'd been to Disneyland because he lived in California a couple times, but he'd never been to any other parks. Never been to Walt Disney World. How do you put a guy like that in charge of your parks? That's like putting me in charge of Newell, being Newell's manager, and Newell does telecom. And I know nothing about telecom, and I'm going to sit there and tell him how to do his job and pretend I know how to do that job.
I tell you where to go.
For the parks especially, you have to have someone who has a passion for it, who gets it, who knows how it works. And I totally, that's why, again, Eisner knew what he was doing in that regard.
While I totally agree with what you're saying, the problem is that you have shareholders to be accountable to. And those are the people at the end of the day that make the decisions. And if they're not getting their dividends, Iger had to see what the shareholders did to Eisner in getting him out, and he's got to say, "Listen, if I want to keep this job, I better appease the shareholders first and foremost, and everything else is second."
Right.
So I agree with you, Mike.
And I agree. I thought what you said about Eisner was correct, but if he wants to keep a job, he's got that audience to hit first before he hits us.
Indeed. Good. Well, let's move on to our next question. Lisa, who writes, "Hey guys, first of all, love the show. Mike Scopa, on episode 682, you said that you were at Kidani Village and you liked your room much more than Bay Lake Tower. Please tell me why. We're going to Walt Disney World in October and we'll be in the Bay Lake Tower for our first 4 nights and then 4-night cruise and then back to Walt Disney World for 2 more nights. I would like to stay at Kidani Village for our last 2 nights, but have to wait to book that to make sure. It'll be my husband, myself, 10 and 8-year-old boys. Thanks for all the great info."
Wow. You can make an argument for both. The argument for Kidani Village is that you're going to get a great balcony and you're going to get to see the animals up close. The advantage for the parents is that it's nice and quiet, and it's just the quality of the room is just amazing. The argument that you can make for Bay Lake Towers is that I think Bay Lake Towers is made, to me, it seems like it was made specifically for the young family. Very bright, very cheerful. The kids will bounce off the walls. It's just so very bright in there. It's close to the Magic Kingdom, so the proximity to the Magic Kingdom is obviously a big plus. My choice, though, if someone said you could stay at one, I guess I'd say Polynesian would be number 1. But Kidani Village is just amazing. I talked with some people this past week when I was down there, and a lot of them tried Kidani Village for the first time, and they were just blown away by the quality of the room.
Cool. Next email is from Jennifer from San Diego. I was having dinner at Disneyland last night and started thinking about all the great original music that was created for Disney attractions, like Grim Grin and Ghost, Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me, etc. I was thinking that while listening to Miss Chris and company singing the unbelievable countrified version of Celebrate You at the Big Thunder Ranch Barbecue, which would not be an example of great Disney music. This got me wondering about new attraction music. I can't think of any recently added attractions that they wrote new music for. Am I missing something? Can you guys think of any?
I'll tell you my favorite.
Hey, go ahead.
The score for Soarin'.
It's a great score, but they didn't write it.
Who wrote it?
It's public. It was pre-existing music, wasn't it?
Not that I know of.
I thought it. I could be wrong, but it was my understanding, Mike, that it was just great moving instrumental music that had pre-existed before. But I agree with you totally. If it is, then I stand corrected.
The
to look that up.
Finding Nemo the musical it's got great original music. I don't think it'll make it into sort of mainstream culture like some of the other Disney songs have, but
yeah, but I agree with Mike. I mean, the Soarin' music is wonderful.
Oh yeah,
great sweeping music over there.
On my running list.
It's great. I love I think the queue. It's the queue. The attraction. Are you talking about the attraction or the queue, Mike? I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the attraction. Not yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I was talking about the queue. My mistake. I think you are right about the attraction itself. That one is very good. But the queue music is also very good. And I think that's the ones that have been pre-written.
It was composed by Jerry Goldsmith.
Very good.
For the score for that attraction. So it's original score for Soarin'.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the queue music, so I'm totally wrong. You the man.
I don't want to be the man. Too much responsibility.
Fight the man. They will fight the man.
Fight the
What about some newer? I do. You know what I also like, Mike, and it's. I don't know if you want to call it original. The music in the Toy Story Midway Mania queue or the Pixar place queue music. It's from the films, but they redid it totally redone for that attraction. Like instrumental versions of it. And I really like that music quite a bit.
Yeah, it fits really good in the area. So yeah, I agree with that.
It's good, but I'll tell you what, doing wait time loops around that area, tracking Toy Story Mania, it's a short loop.
Yeah, it gets on your nerves after a
I
while.
keep hearing the same track over and over.
Some of the new music in the refurbished Spaceship Earth is kind of cool too.
Oh yeah, which music was in the queue or where is it, Mike?
Like when you hit the neon room right after right just before the computer room. Oh, the new scenes.
There's a nude scene?
Yeah, I love that nude scene. Sponsored by Cinemax.
The new scenes have a different score than the Jeremy Irons version, so it's pretty. I like it.
Next email is from Ryan from Appleton, Wisconsin. Again, good job, Ryan. I was listening to the show today and heard someone suggest of staying at Fort Wilderness Cabins to someone looking for a moderate resort. When I heard this, I was ecstatic. So I went to WaltDisneyWorld.com, checked it out. A normal moderate resort like Caribbean Beach is $149 a night, while Fort Wilderness Cabins are $270 a night. Is this the true magic of Disney at work here, labeling a resort moderate even though it has deluxe prices? If Fort Wilderness Cabins are still considered deluxe, they would not be even the cheapest deluxe. Wilderness Lodge was only $240 a night. What gives?
It sleeps more people. That's why it's more expensive. But
Yeah.
the quality of the accommodation is more in line with a moderate. That's why they changed it. I'm sure people were booking it as a deluxe, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be really posh and comfy," but it's kind of rustic, which goes with the theme. But
it is technically a moderate resort in the listings, but that doesn't mean the price has to reflect that. So take it for what it is. Next email is from Jeff from St. Louis. This is Jeff from St. Louis, and I had a question for whoever has an opinion. We're heading down for a Flower and Garden Festival in 2011, and I'm trying to decide when to go. We want to go for Flower and Garden, but we want to go with the low crowds and decent weather. This will be our first trip outside of summer. Please let me know if you have any opinions so I can start really planning this trip. Thanks for the show, guys. So Flower and Garden, what's the best time for Flower and Garden for weather and crowds?
Well, we don't have official dates, right? We're guessing based on historical dates that we're looking at probably March 2nd through
May 15th.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, WDW Magic has March 2nd to May 15th, 2011. I don't know if it's right.
That's what we have too, but we have it. It's not official as far as I know. If it is official, let us know and we'll make it official. But
yeah,
So other than avoiding Easter or maybe mid-April as well, the crowds are going to be pretty good anytime.
You want to go a couple weeks in because they put the flowers in, but they don't start blooming until a little more into the festival. So the first weekend, obviously, it'll still be very nice and everything, but you want to catch it when that full bloom is going on. And obviously, if you wait till May, it's gonna be very hot, and I think you'll be past the peak bloom and things like that. Scopa, do you have any opinions on your thoughts on Flower and Garden?
Yeah, Matt. You got to think about grad night, how that would come into play too. So, and the school vacation week. So the third and fourth week in April. I don't know. Maybe the fourth week in April might be one that I would consider.
Well, you mean just after Easter?
Oh, is that where Easter is next year?
Yeah, Easter Sunday is the 24th of April.
Oh.
So you're going to have pretty hefty crowds right up until probably Tuesday the 26th.
All right, let me qualify that then. It would be the last week in April, only if it's not Easter week. If it's Easter week, then I would say first week in May.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because you're going to have grad nights on the weekends those weeks. So I would say probably, if you're thinking like a Saturday to Saturday, leave on like the 30th and spend the first week, because the crowds are going to be really low then. There'll be some heat, like you said, Matt, but now you're talking full bloom for the festival, so that's probably the best time to go.
Sounds good. I think it's time for our last email of the day, and I'll give Mr. Newell 3 emails to choose from. One gets read today. The other 2 go back into the email queue to be answered later. Ready, Mike?
Just pick Mary Jo Collins' email. Let's get on with it.
And not in the choices this week. Your choices this week are Scopa New Grog and That's Not Grog.
What?
Other resorts you dislike, or First Time Foreigner.
Wow.
Is it Foreigner the band, or are they from
I think it's actually I'm not from this country,
Okay.
Foreigner.
I don't know if we can answer that, but since we have a foreigner with us, maybe we can answer it. So let's go with that.
All right. Our last email is from John from Farmington. Doesn't sound very foreign.
Long Island?
My wife and I are taking my mother-in-law to the world in October. She's from a tiny island in Greece, and this will be her first visit. We can only tour one park, so I plan on taking her to the Magic Kingdom as I feel it best represents Disneyana. I also plan on showing her the monorail resorts and having an ADR at Chef Mickey's. We'll be staying at Disney's All-Star Sports Resort. My question is this: what else in the world should I show her? What do you think would be the most impressive non-park attraction for a first-timer? Thanks. I really appreciate all that you do for Disney fans everywhere.
Non-park attraction.
So as an international guest, Fred, what do you think?
I don't feel as like an international guest, but that's a good question. I'm kind of thinking, well, I mean, first of all, everything at Disney World is going to, ooze Americana. So someone that comes from somewhere far away is going to, not that this would be a culture shock, but I think there's certain interest in everywhere at Walt Disney World because it's so different. The boardwalk.
Yeah,
Something like the
great.
boardwalk. Maybe it's a good place to walk around. You could just kind of view the different resorts. Each one is a little bit different, yet represents something about with an American theme.
I think
it's kind of like it kind of has a certain historical value to it. Kind of the Atlantic City boardwalk kind of thing.
Right before Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Before the casinos.
I was going to say the Animal Kingdom actually is also another one I think really impresses people. You drive up there and you see this massive lobby that's themed like you're in Africa, and obviously the animals that you have over there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Scopa, what do you think?
I was thinking Cirque du Soleil, but I don't know why. I just kept thinking that would be away from the parks. Yeah.
That's for sure. Because you're talking about non-park attractions. There's not, other than maybe resort hopping or
You can do Hoop-de-Doo.
And you got to pay $50-something to get there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's funny. That depends. My thinking was, non-park meaning like free. Like
Right.
if they were going to spend one day and they just wanted to, if they have like a half day to, go walk around or see something else. But I'm not sure what they meant.
I mean, the resorts alone are attractions in themselves. So you can walk around some of the resorts and check out
great point.
the landscapes and the sceneries. And
I really like the boardwalk suggestion, and maybe even Animal Kingdom. So those two, I think, are going to be some good choices for you and your Greek mother-in-law. Well, that's going to do it for us today. But, our sponsor today is MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And, hey, if you're planning your next trip to Walt Disney World and you're looking for an option for someone to help you plan that next trip, their vacation planners are available to help you figure out what's the best option for you. There's so many discounts out there right now between room-only offers and gift cards and PIN codes. And, it really is it is very difficult to figure out what's the best deal. Because, of course, you want to save the most amount of money, right? You want to figure out what deal is best for you and your family. And those travel planners at MEI and Mousefan Travel can help you figure that out. Just go to www.mousefantravel.com. If you'd like to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit us online at www.wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and Fred Hazelton, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.